Welcome to another episode of Life in the Jungle, Season 1, Episode 10. And I honestly, we're excited. We very excited to do this show today after what happened yesterday. Uh, you know, we call this a day in Baltimore. A
One
day in
night in Baltimore.
What one day in Baltimore, because it's I got a feeling we can go back. This is gonna maybe be a footnote in this era that we can go back, maybe, tell stories about that one day in Baltimore. But looking just, just to think about the game, of course, it's your boy Cam Chancellor. I got the Pharaoh with me, Alex Brantley, and we're gonna break it down. Uh let's just get straight into it, man. Overall, your thoughts of the beatdown 41-17 over the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, well, there was certainly no disputing it. I like the Uno jersey, by the way.
Oh,
Uh,
it's getting sported today.
Again, I am flabbergasted. I am tickled pink. My man said, "Let's go." That's right, Bengals fans. We keeping it in context. We're staying in the moment. But for
Yes,
right now, the Cincinnati Bengals are in first place. Not just the AFC North; they are in first place in the AFC. Know a lot of people cracking jokes at that because it's only 7 games in. But hey, as Bill Parcells once said, "You are what your record says you are."
yep, absolutely, absolutely. Right now, we're 5-2. We're looking good. Um, I guess my takeaway from this is, you know, we have a different group. It's just different. You know, a lot of people want to go back to the era where, well, y'all won a bunch of games before, and you see what happened. Let's see what happened when you get to the playoffs. First of all, let's hold up. You take it week by week in the NFL. All right, you win your game that week and you move forward. It's okay, Bengals fans, for us to have confidence. I understand we're used to things going wrong, but this is a different bunch. We have a different quarterback. We have a quarterback that believes that each and every time out there, he's the baddest dude on the field. And when you have that at the quarterback position, you give yourselves a chance to win every week, no matter who the opponent is.
Exactly. And he's got a guy that plays with him. And I'm counterintuitive, so I'm gonna give some love to maybe some Bengals players and units that aren't getting talked about as much. But we'd be remiss if we didn't start at number one with the guy that they call Uno. This guy is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's
Right
another
now,
level. Another
right
level.
now, NFL record for a rookie wide receiver, most yards through 7 games, obliterated Anquan Bolden's record set back in 2003. Uno was on pace for what, 1,800 yards and
Yeah.
14 touchdowns
Hmm.
right now by some prognostications. This guy's lighting it up. So we talked about this off the air, and just for everybody that's tuning in, so we're not doing the talking about the left tackle from the Detroit Lions and the wide receiver from the Bengals today. What we will say is the Bengals made the right choice for their system right now, and it's certainly panning out, and you got to be excited. But let's start with that defense, though. Lamar Jackson was lighting the world on fire coming into this game. And
Hmm.
even all of us were sitting here sweating last week trying to figure out exactly how to defend this guy and seeing what you could do to maybe slow the tide some. And don't get me wrong, he still has some flash plays. That bomb he threw to Hollywood Brown and a couple runs where you were kind of puckered in your seat. But you got to give some credit to Sweet Lou, Logan Wilson, Larry Ogunjobi, DJ Reader. There were guys all over the place. The safeties, Von Bell and Jesse Bates, Awuzie at corner. The Bengals as a unit defensively shut down who could probably be considered up there with Patrick Mahomes as the top one or two most dynamic guys in the entire league.
Yep, 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 absolutely. And I'm gonna get to these comments here. We have Kenny here, regular watcher, great win, whipping those Ravens. Who they? Absolutely. It's always big when you beat the Ravens. Like I said on the last show, I want to get back to beating the Ravens.
Yeah.
Before I got spoiled with the Marvin Lewis era, because that was one team that we beat on a regular basis. At worst, we was gonna split. We were never gonna get swept by the Ravens.
Right.
So to get back to beating them, it definitely felt good. Christopher Taylor said the fans are coming out the woodwork. I like the energy. I said we could come out of October 3-1. Let's get it. Absolutely, let's get it, man. It's an exciting time. And like I said before, there's no reason to feel like, you got to hold your breath. I feel like this is a good team. We have a focused leader, in Joe Burrow. That's like, it wasn't no big deal for him beating Baltimore, throwing for 416 yards. He's like, hey, I'm focused on the Jets. And try to get a win, get a win next week. So, it's just huge to have that person leading the charge, which kind of leads to what Corey Brooker was saying here. Joey just has a different mindset than Carson. Carson, in my opinion, was more talented, but Joey's a dog, and that's key because Carson had every tool in the book, far as arm talent wise. But it's the moxie, it's the confidence and it's the uplifting in others. Joe Burrow makes people around him better, and we're lucky to have him because, like I said, he can mask a lot of weaknesses, like some of your great quarterbacks. Like for years, Peyton Manning never had a great defense, but it never mattered because Peyton Manning was going to get you 30 to 35 points and win you 13 games a year. Joey Burrow kind of gives me that kind of feel, in that the line's not great, but they make them look average. You know what I mean? We got holes here, holes there, but it's not a big weakness because we have a good quarterback in Joe Burrow.
Well, he's certainly a brave young man. He hangs in the pocket even when the protection isn't the greatest, and that's part of that moxie and competitiveness that he showed at LSU and why he excelled, and even his rookie year before he got hurt. It's a Tom Brady-esque mindset. Not saying again that he is Tom Brady or will be the GOAT, but it's a mindset that I had pinpointed even from the beginning when I had questions about Joe, that you can always see that it factor. The guys believe in him. There's no stage that's too big for him. I heard Dan Orlovsky earlier this morning on ESPN talking about why he thought Joe would be great. The fact that he never panics
Yep.
in the
Yep.
pocket, always stands tall and really does take care of the ball. Every now and then he'll try to force one in there, but Joe is certainly the difference maker, and you can tell the confidence that he's infused in this entire organization. I agree with that comment that Corey stated, because I'm on record and always will be, and until I see something else. Carson Palmer is the most physically gifted quarterback the Bengals have ever had. And I'm not saying that he was even weak mentally. It's just Joe brings something to the table that I mentioned a few episodes back that I haven't seen. It's a cockiness, but not overly arrogant. It's an internal, I'm that dude that hasn't been seen since Boomer, the last guy to lead us to the Super Bowl. So I'm loving it. I hope that's where this thing ends up going one day. So we got a special group going this year, and that's how you had to take it, like you said, week by week, and see what happens.
Yep. Absolutely. And what shocked me about yesterday. And we got to start. I think for me, myself personally, I don't know if I can speak for you, but maybe I have to stop being shocked about both sides of the ball playing physical. The offensive line may not be the best in the world, but when they get their hat on you, they're driving you. I know it was the last touchdown run with Samaje P. Ryan. Uh, Jackson Carmen had just a nasty pancake block to open up that cutback lane for a TD. It just absolutely pancaked the D tackle there. Drove him about 5 yards. Both trenches are playing physical. They're punching you in the mouth, and I don't think the Ravens, especially them on defense, expected to get punched in the mouth. Not by the Bengals, for a team they used to dominating.
Of course not, especially not at home. And that was another good point that I definitely want to touch on before I forget. There was a little back and forth going as the second half, opened
Hmm.
a little bit. There was some shifts that happened in the game to see who was going to take control. But I thought when the Bengals got that more than one score separation that they needed, and the offensive line grit down, and you got to give a hats off to Zach Taylor too, because he could have kept throwing the ball in that situation and trying to be pretty, but he understood the importance and football acumen in that moment. You got to take control. You got to shorten the game, and let's pound these guys into submission. and you got to give kudos for him doing that, calling those plays, and the offensive line, as you said, for stepping up and doing it. I saw Carmen get nasty on a couple blocks in the trenches to open up them holes, and Joe Mixon, because he was getting stonewalled for the majority of the game. But
Yeah,
he never stopped lowering his shoulder either and running hard. And eventually, you could see as a third, fourth quarter, I saw something that I haven't seen in a long time. The Ravens looked a little bit defeated on their face and realized that
they
it was
did.
pretty much over.
Yeah,
So hats off to the Bengals, and there's nothing the defensive line or defense period can do to shock me at this point. I'm all in on the Bengals defense. I think we got one of the best units across the league that can compete with anybody.
yeah, absolutely. I'll tag some of these more of these comments here. Corey said people want to play with joy. I don't know. I can say the same about Carson. I mean, maybe that's true. Um, I know there's a different mindset as far as attacking free agency with Katie. I think we've seen that. You spend $200 million on defense in 2 years. And then you look at guys like DJ Reader and say, "Hey, I came down between me and Denver." And then they asked me, Joey B or Drew Lock. I chose Joey B. Like, you know what I mean? That's what that's what type of, vibe we get. And players want to come here and play for us. And we're getting guys. And another thing I wanted to touch on too that really helped us, we're getting guys in the offseason, free agency and drafting winners. We're
Hmm.
drafting winners. We're drafting guys that don't know what losing is, not on a consistent basis. And I think that's huge too. You get guys like a Mike Hilton from the Steelers, not used to losing. You get excuse me, guys like Trey Hendrickson with the Saints, not used to losing. You draft Burrow, not used to losing. T. Higgins at Clemson, not used to losing. Chase, not used to losing. So sometimes it says a lot about drafting winners. You know what I mean? And credit to the front office. You have to give them credit. They get beat up a lot, rightfully so. In the past. But you look at these last two off seasons. You get DJ Reader. You get Quentin Spain in the middle of the season last year. You drafted Logan Wilson, Akeem Davis, Gaither. These are guys, are third, fourth round picks that are hitting and that are
Von
playing.
Bell was a
Yeah, and
steal in
Von
free
Bell
agency.
was a huge game. You know what? I didn't even think safety was a focus in free agency that year. And I seen Von Bell sign. I'm like, okay, another guy, winning mentality from the Ohio State,
Thank you.
but come from a winning mentality. Play for the Saints, used to winning, just setting the tone, man. And they've put together a good roster for this team to win and be successful. Now I do have a question for you. We're here, right? We're here. We're in weeks. We're going on week 8. We're 5-2. This organization has shown a little bit of aggressive as far as being aggressive and getting players. Whether it's we getting losing depth and just picking up Trey Flowers off waivers, just little things like that.
Hmm.
Can you see the Bengals possibly, if it's required, maybe a fifth round, sixth round, making a trade just to bolster their roster and try to make a push for this thing, maybe like an extra pass rusher, or something of that nature.
I think it's possible, and it's more possible this year than it has been in previous years.
Yeah,
Again, I've been one to defend the Brown family as people
yeah,
more so than football owners. But even in that way, they treat their players fair. I feel like they treat them as people more so than a lot of organizations do in the league. And they're finding a formula as Miss Blackburn, Katie has taken over in day-to-day operations. I think hats need to go off to Duke Tobin also, the Bengals director of player personnel, who is their de facto GM, who has been key in some of these decision makings that you've seen take place. So they have a culture and a system that they're starting to build. Zach is a part of that. Year 3 is coming together. So I think you might see them be, active, and you never know what they'll do. More so than a couple years ago when the trade deadline came up and it was rumored that the Brown family had taken a vacation to Switzerland. Again, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what was
yeah,
said. So they weren't really actively trying to, make any trades. But I think this year and what they've shown over the past 2 years is, particularly with Duke Tobin leading the front office, they'll entertain any opportunity to get their team better. So whether it be a better pass rush, I know I mentioned last episode, I would love to see another tight end threat to go along with CJ Uzama, who's killing it
And I
this
don't mean to
year.
cut you off here. Corey Brooker says Evan Ingram. Heard he may be available for a 4 for 5. But what about CJ? CJ, we asked him to come up big. It seemed like he answered the bell every time.
Well, he does, but I'm just worried about, well, what if he starts to show a little wear and tear as the season goes along, or if you want to do a two tight end set and really pound somebody as the weather changes as we get later into the season, and we're looking at potentially making a postseason run this year, it might, behoove the Bengals to have an extra tight end, somebody we use as a lead blocker anyway. So that's why I kind of said that. But CJ certainly carrying the bulk right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We got a new guy here, Mike Hoggins. Is who they? Definitely who they there. Um, just a different skill set for Corey Brooker's a different skill set far as Ingram consumes the middle with that speed. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that could look at there. I just don't see them going after a pass catching tight end per se. I really think they're happy with Uzama, and you really can't make sure we gotta make sure we look at team chemistry too. Uzama's a huge part of that, as far as that locker room goes, and cutting his snaps. I don't know how that will go in the locker room as a
He's
whole.
a locker room guy. He kind of reminds me of the new Domata Peko, who was
Yeah.
like the locker room guy of those Bengals teams of old.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Another than we got a who they here from Lance. Who they? Um. Now we look at it here, and I looked at Chase numbers because I'm gonna be honest. I had to go back and watch the game. I'm coaching, right? I'm coaching on the sideline, and I'm peeking at my phone. I'm trying to look at the score and things like that. And all of a sudden, I know I seen that Chase touchdown, 82 yards to the house. Um, this is I, like I said, I didn't expect this from Jamar Chase. Like I said, my even though I expect him to go off, I said what 1,200 yards,
Eight
like what I
touchdowns.
said, 8 touchdowns. I mean, he's looking like he's gonna get 600 more yards than that. He's on pace for that, and he's on pace for 14, 15 touchdowns. Um, and you know what? I'm glad some of the national guys, and it's not about right or wrong, but I am glad some of the national guys are coming out and saying that, like, okay, it wasn't just one way to fix it. You know what I mean? Because before it's like, oh, Booger said the Bengals should be sued for malpractice. They didn't pick Sewell. They after they got him hurt last year. And all this kind of stuff. And now it's like, you know,
Well,
we
all of
have a
that was
deep threat, and you can't. And remember what I said. Remember what I said with the AFC North. We always try to match the bully. We always try to build our team like theirs. No, I said. Remember before the season started, I said set a trend. Line is three wide. You stop us. You figure out a way to guard our receivers. You figure out a way to stop Joe Mixon. You figure out a way to stop us, not us trying to match y'all and go toe to toe with y'all. And I think we got something, special as far as this division go. And they looking at us and saying, "How are we gonna stop these threats?"
Well, and I've made a point that to go along with that. The 2015 Bengals team, 2013, 2005, going back to the Super Bowl years, 88, 81, Bengals always had a top five offense. So when we have that type of identity, seems to suit this team, pretty well. And again, multiple things can be true at the same time. That's what I've been telling people. Joe was still getting roughed up a little bit in the first half. I'm glad that the line
Yeah,
did pull it together because he took some shots that I was really
don't
looking at
be.
the TV trying to make sure that he got up.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jonah struggled. Justin Houston was really giving it to him that game. To be quite honest with you, but yeah, but go ahead,
But
absolutely.
you make adjustments, as the game goes on, and that's not to say that the Bengals can't and shouldn't still look at bolstering their offensive line going forward. But this group does have a chemistry, to the point where they're allowing us to get the job done right now. But nobody expected Jamar Chase to come out and do this, even if that was who you wanted the Bengals to select. Let's be honest about it. I made the point that not a lot of rookie wide receivers come in instantly and do what he's doing right now. Because now you're starting to talk about the Randy Mosses, the Anquan Boldens, those type of numbers that have only been done by those wide receivers. This record that he just broke, most through 7 games receiving yards, it was 645 that Anquan Bolden had at this point back in 2003. He's got 745 right now. Speaking of Jamar Chase with 35 catches and 6 touchdowns, I believe, right now. So I don't think anybody expected this, instant impact, but it certainly does point to the chemistry that him and Joe probably already had from their time at LSU, and having two other threats out there like a Tyler Boyd and a T. Higgins where they can't just key in on one guy. So there's a lot of elements to go to it. We're making a concerted effort to get Joe Mixon the football this year too, so defenses can't pin their ears back and just blitz Joe all the time. Baltimore did that because that's what they do. They are a blitz heavy team, so you expected that coming in. But as you saw in the second half, they started to blitz Joe Mixon, and the guy that I've been a little bit critical of at times, Samaje Perine, was chopping them up too in the run game. And if you keep that balance right there, the Bengals are going to be really hard to beat with the way the defense is playing on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And speaking of the defense here, oh, and that's a good comment. We'll get into that later here. Devontae Jones said the Eagles just traded Joe Flacco to the Jets today, so we'll get into the Jets in a minute. But that's absolutely a good point there. Corey Booker said, "What about these Sam Hubbard?" Yesterday game, the Ravens game in general is a reason why you keep Sam Hubbard. This defense was simply built to stop Lamar Jackson twice a year. Lou was staying up. It gave him nightmares all offseason how Lamar Jackson did it. Seriously, like he really, really, really wanted to stop this, read option offense. And give credit to Lou, man. He got his pieces. And what's crazy is I talked to a guy that's normally watching us. His name is B, and he comes on his name Bam Marino on Facebook, and he says, and he calls Lou Dirty Lou. He called him Dirty Lou, and he said, "Ain't it? Who would have thought coming into the season, week 7, that we're thinking about Dirty Lou possibly getting a head coaching job because of the job he's doing here in Cincinnati. Like right now, we have a top 7 offense and a top 5 scoring defense right now. And I did not think coming into the year we will have that. Now, don't get me wrong. Remember, I said defense give us top 15, top 16 average. Play decent early till Joe get his footing. I didn't see the defense really dominating, and credit to some of the pieces, like Rouzier, like he's playing like a top 10 corner right now. Um, and they're in sync. They're in sync. They expect to win. They're playing fast. But Sam Hubbard, just to go back to him, he had a heck of a game, and him and Hendrickson's motor is unreal at the end.
There's so many pieces you mentioned. They're all coming together and clicking at the same time. It's almost like the Bengals, especially going into this year, have not missed on anybody defensively that
No,
they've added to the puzzle. And everybody fits. Everybody plays their role. DJ Reader is a nose tackle built for a 3-4 defense. Trey Hendrickson is playing like another former Bengal, Justin Smith, when he finally got into the 3-4 scheme. Like he's unblockable,
yeah,
at this point. Larry Ogunjobi, I'm sure the Browns miss him at this point up front. He has been causing serious problems from that defensive tackle position. And
yeah,
like you said, Sam, I'm glad he put that "the" on there when we're speaking of Sam Hubbard,
ridiculous.
the Cincinnati born and raised Moeller High School state champion, won a national championship at the that brought that winning culture to the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's standing out as a leader up front every week. And then you go to the back end and you got another guy from the and Von Bell that is bringing the pain at the safety position, and a captain and a leader back there with Jesse Bates, who was ranked as the highest safety by PFF last year. I'm transitioning for you. Last year by Pro Football Focus, everywhere you look, there's not a guy that's not pulling his weight. I think Eli Apple has settled into now what we're asking him to do when he is the third or fourth corner, as opposed to being out there a number of snaps that we didn't anticipate. Ricardo Allen has made some nice plays, spelling Von Bell and Jesse Bates at safety, the safety position, the linebackers, Logan Wilson, everybody's flying around. Like you said, an Akeem Davis Gaither sighting was made yesterday. You know, Pratt is not necessarily an every down linebacker, but when he comes in, he's filling the holes and playing those running lanes and running around being fast. Look at how many people we just mentioned. The Bengals did not miss defensively. And you got to give Sweet Lou credit because I'll be honest, coming into the season, I was almost more concerned about him returning than I was Zach Taylor because
I wanted Dirty Lou out of there. I wanted him out of there.
because I felt offensively, especially with them drafting Chase, I'm like, okay, even though I still thought Joe needed some more protection, I'm like, man, we got weapons galore now. So I know that they can overcome, maybe some questionable decision making from time to time, from the sideline with Joe and a healthy offense. Defense, I was really worried because in previous years we saw Bengals coming up to the line of scrimmage. They always looked confused. They were still talking to each other till right before the snap, and you saw a bunch of broken long plays, gashing the defense. You don't see that anymore. That's because the pieces fit together. They work for the system that Lou has. I think they're a little bit more comfortable, and guys want to play and want to be here, so that helps. I'm going to throw a little dig, even though, we don't really do this on Life in the Jungle. If you have a guy like a William Jackson III who didn't seem to really be all in to
Mhm.
begin with, that shows on film. They don't
Mhm.
really have that issue this year because everybody's committed. And that's as big as what you do physically on the field, making sure you're mentally locked in. And that's what I think Joe is so key in doing, speaking of Joe Burrow, because everybody's with him, everybody's riding. They know they got a leader that will literally give his body life and limb out there to win a football game, and it's oozing all over the team.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is, with those, guys, that you name, and Joe Burrow just oozing through the team. It is it, you know, it just says a lot about the team chemistry. And Kevin Huber just said, he's the longest tenured Bengal.
Yeah.
And he said this is the closest team that he's ever been around.
Mm.
These guys hang out together. They chill together. Outside of football, and that's huge too. When you cool outside of football, that carries on to the field too. You have that special type of brotherhood. Um, but I do want to talk about something. I'm gonna ask you, and then I'll get on it because I posted something. I gave Zach Taylor some credit, and all of a sudden I get attacked. Oh, you love that? You love ZT now? All this. I'm like, no. I'm a fair-minded guy. And I will admit when I am wrong. All I was saying was regarding Zach Taylor and giving him props is we might as well stop talking because I know we plenty of Bengals fans, not only myself, not only us, will be like, well, if Zach Taylor don't get the job done, then who we gonna hire? My point was we can forget about that. We can stop talking about that because Zach is here to stay. Knock on wood, we don't have any, season changing injuries. But as long as that doesn't happen, I really just don't see this team falling off. And Zach is going to get extended. So that's what I meant by saying, you know what? We might as well stop talking about him replacing him because it ain't happening. Zach Taylor
But
with
you
his
didn't
guys
phrase
showing
it
you.
like that though, Cam. That's why you got attacked by so many people, including me this morning when you made that post because you flat out went out and said, "Oh well, I'm glad I was wrong about Zach Taylor and yada yada yada." And I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, okay, Cam. We're talking about a 7 game stretch, a 7 game sample when
Mhm.
we've seen 2 years of not getting it done. I'm liking what I'm seeing, uh, but I need to see an entire season play out. This is a 17 game season. that we're
Absolutely.
on right now.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and we're just what? We got 10 more contests.
You got
And
10
I'm
more.
with you. Barring injury, knock on wood. I ain't really got none around me right now, but knock on
Mhm.
wood somewhere. I believe the Bengals will probably end up in the playoffs. And like I said, at that point, I will admit that he has something cooking. You know me. I love Marvin. I've defended Marvin to the tilt, so
Right.
much. I talk about it till I'm blue in the face. But, I'm also a big Sam Weiss guy.
Mhm.
Surprise, surprise, the two best coaches we've had. But I do know from doing my research that they weren't really happy. Speaking of fans and maybe even ownership with Sam through his first few years, and it was almost a similar kind of situation to what you see now with Zach Taylor, where it's like all of a sudden that 1 year it clicked. They had enough guys who had been in the same system for years and were starting to trust and want to be around each other. And that's all it really takes. So I'm just saying, let it play out. Let me see Zach Taylor lead this team back to the playoffs for the first time since 2015. And then I might start to formulate out of my own mouth that maybe I was wrong about this young man. But, I have more of the latter than I do what's happening currently. So I just want to take it week to week before I jump off a cliff with these major proclamations that you make sometimes.
No, look, it no. Of course, you take it week to week, but I've said a couple times on this show, it was something to be said last year. Monday Night Football, 2-10-1. Ryan Finley out there. You got a Pittsburgh Steelers team not only trying to win a division, fighting for a bye. So they're playing, as hard as they could possibly play. And with Ryan Finley, this team plays hard. This team play to win and won that football game. And I'm like, I don't, at the time, I'm like, I don't care that much for Zach Taylor, but there's something to be said, especially professionals. They're clocked 2-10-1. They're clocked out. They don't book vacation at this time. At this point, they just try not to get hurt, so
except
they vacation won't get messed up.
except when you have guys like Von Bell who are going to bring the wood literally and figuratively, no matter what, as he did against Juju Smith in that game.
Yeah, he did.
That are professionals that have some internal pride about what they do and the product that they put out on the field. So I was with you because I remember we had a discussion about that too. And I said, I don't know if it's as much them playing for him as guys still wanting to, go out there and do their job and not be embarrassed. But, again, you have to look at facts and what actually happened. You're right. They could have packed it in and they didn't. And if they were tuning him out totally, that's probably what would have happened, but it didn't. So I think there's some, fairness, that needs to enter into the equation when we talk about Zach going forward. But I just want to keep it in context for what we got going right now. It's working. Let a whole season play out because I've seen 2 seasons that weren't up to par. Give me a whole season. Listen, he gets us to the playoffs. It might come out of my mouth. They win a playoff game, something that hasn't happened since 1991, January of 1991. You never know what type of proclamations I'll make. Like I said, I'll be down at Cook Sporting Goods getting my authentic Joe Burrow jersey, right now. When
Yeah,
that happens. So
yeah.
again, I'm ready to eat my words on a lot of stuff that's happening down there and want to be proved wrong. I said that in the beginning with Zach Taylor. Like I wanted him to prove me wrong. I didn't think he was the guy, but I want him to prove me wrong. What do I look like as a Bengals supporter and fan rooting, against him? That would never happen. So I'm tickled pink with what I'm seeing. I just want to continue to see it. And I think we all have a little bit of Cincinnati fan in us to where we've been through so much here. And
Hmm.
I'm talking about, Reds fans, Bearcat basketball, Cincinnati Bengals. It's almost to the point where, as Bernie Mac would say, I don't believe nothing till it happens. So I'm staying in the moment and I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm staying in the moment. I like what I'm saying. We're 5-2. Uh, First place, not only in the AFC North, but in the AFC period. With 2-0 in the division. So you're really looking good here. Cleveland's beat up at this point in time. And then obviously you got the Jets next week, and you never, ever, ever want to look over an opponent as
Didn't they
good as
beat Tennessee?
they beat Tennessee. Right,
Okay.
right. But don't get me wrong. Tennessee didn't have no Julio Jones, no AJ Brown. But if you're Tennessee, you still trying to find a way to win that game. You still have Derrick Henry. You still have Ryan Tannehill. You gotta try to find a way to win that game. But that just show you it's the NFL. Anything can happen. And before we move on and talk about the Jets, real quick, because that was a good segue to talk about the Jets. Game balls. I got it's a lot of love to go around. But offense, defense, or just a random player you feel like, was an X factor. Give me a game balls for Sunday.
Well, I'm going to copy off your newfound favorite head coach, Zach Taylor, and I'm going to give a game ball to the entire defense. The
Mm,
entire defense holding the
mm,
Baltimore Ravens to 17 points at home and containing Lamar Jackson, who again had been on an absolute tear and was running through the league unchecked and making plays left and right. They sacked Lamar Jackson 5 times. That is the most that Lamar Jackson has been sacked in a single game since he's been in the NFL. And that means that not only were you having to rush, you were having to rush smart and not lose containment and open up those rushing lanes for him. Um, Trying to stay with his favorite targets, Mark Andrews, at tight end. I've given a game ball to the entire defense. Now, offensively, I like to be counterintuitive and give it to people that maybe the average, fan or viewer didn't pay much attention to. But listen here, man.
it is the
I'm giving
gritty.
that I'm giving that ball to Uno.
It is the gritty.
Man, when he did that gritty, you should have seen my face go like this, man. I was waiting on it because the last time he scored, he didn't do
He
it.
did.
And I was
You know
mad
what?
because
Somebody
you were
told me.
down there. You were
Yeah.
down there. And I said, Cam, I said, did he do it, man? And it didn't show it on TV?
I'm like, nah. I'm like, he ain't do it, bro. I was down there. He ain't do it. I think somebody watching went back and told him you got to hit the darn gritty because he hit it this time.
Yeah. Man, listen, Joe Burrow had a lights out game. We mentioned the offensive line stepping up in the second half, doing their thing. But 8 catches over 200 yards, it's really hard not to get that ball to Uno.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. And I can't not give the ball to an entire defense because anytime you hold Lamar Jackson to what you hold him to, it takes an entire defense to do so.
Yeah.
Um, and I just want to give a huge shout out to DJ Reader. He don't get the pub on our defense, but he was the first big free agent signing to come here and to believe in the process. And if I'm not mistaken, he's rated fourth at his position right now. And that's huge. And just stopping the run, he eats up blocks, makes it easier for others, and makes it easier for the linebackers to make their plays. He does all the dirty work for the D line, and you gotta kind of tip your hat. I just wanted to give him a shout out because a
And
lot of people
he was
can
a
forget about
very Yeah, he was a very highly coveted free agent,
him.
2 years ago. He was definitely the best nose tackle out on free agency and had some other offers. So, like you said, it was him believing in the system and taking a chance on us. And again, you have to give Miss Blackburn some credit, opening up that pocketbook to get DJ Reader to come here.
Yes, absolutely. And on offense, obviously you pick Chase. You can pick Chase 10 times out of 10. No issue with that. I'm gonna go with CJ Uzama. You
Okay.
know, I'm gonna go with CJ Uzama. Caught 2 touchdown passes. Take advantage of his matchups. And the thing about CJ Uzama, he doesn't seem shifty, but he finds a way to break tackles. He
He
catch that
really does.
ball. He shook off Marlon Humphrey, got a touchdown. The second touchdown, shook off a safety, got a touchdown. So each touchdown, he had to break tackles in order to get there. And it seemed like his touchdowns this year, he has to make multiple moves to get in the end zone. And I'm liking, what we have. Uzama is that selfless guy where, okay, you give me, 4 or 5 targets a game, cool, or you give me zero. I'm gonna just block my tail off. As long as we win, I'm happy. And those are the type of guys you need. So I'm gonna get this game ball to CJ Uzama. Really, scored the first touchdown. and then scored the touchdown to kind of answer after the Hollywood Brown long pass there to kind of calm us back down to let us know everything all right. We got an answer for you, and letting Baltimore know we ain't going nowhere today.
I agree,
But
and that's certainly another guy that you could have gave it to.
yep, and we got Jason Lowe here said the whole squad. But if you have to choose one, the O line for only giving up one sack to Baltimore. That's true. That's definitely true. The offensive line, play well enough early on. There was a lot of pressures. I'm like, oh, because I was able to watch a little bit. My first game was at 145, so I'm watching, the first couple possessions. I'm like, Joe running for his life. I'm like, I'm hoping this is not gonna last all day. But to be credit, Joe can move that pocket, can manipulate the pocket, climb it, and to help that offensive line. So, like I said, I think I seen something today where the offensive line is 16th as far as pass blocking efficiency. That's average. That's all I said. Look, an average
You did
offense.
say at the beginning of the year if they could just get you to the middle of the pack.
Give me the middle of the pack. I said we will be fine. That's all I asked for because I knew the line wasn't gonna go from 30th to fifth in 1 year. You're just not going to do it. Even if you had the solid players, it's continuity with our offensive line. So let's just get some pieces that's going to be here for a while and just get gradually better. I said Joe Burrow with the 16th best line will put up points. That's all you need in the NFL, especially with a quarterback like Joe Burrow. Now, if you got, hey, I'm gonna take a dig up because that's what we Bengals fans. So I'm gonna take a dig and a little shot regarding the Cleveland Browns. Now, if you got a Baker Mayfield, you may need a All Pro line. You may need five Pro Bowl, 4 or 5 Pro Bowls on the offensive line, and all that. But with Burrow, you don't need that um, because he uplifts everyone around him.
That's a fair
But
statement.
yeah, but we can talk about this Baltimore game all day, and we can have fun with that. But we gotta get into the Jets because that's what Joe Bill wants us to do. He wants us to celebrate that win, but we got to move on to the New York Jets, and they're a bad football team. I'm gonna be flat out honest with you. They are a bad football team. Zach Wilson is out for 2 to 4 weeks with I want to say a PCL sprain.
Hmm.
They traded for Joe Flacco today. Um, you know, Now what I want to know is, okay, you answered a few questions this year. You bounce back after tough losses. You can win on the road. Can you now handle success when everyone else knows about you now? You're not catching nobody off guard no more. You beat Baltimore 41-17. National media now giving us love. I heard this morning on Get Up that Joe Burrow should get some MVP votes. So now you're on ESPN, you're on the show. You had Stephen A. Smith say he'll pick Joe Burrow over Lamar Jackson today. So when you start to get this type of pub, teams want to beat you no matter who they are, no matter how bad they are. How do we handle success when it's expected for us to win? That's another level. That's another question for this group, this young group, who under Zach Taylor, let's be honest, we haven't seen much winning.
Well, and that's a fair question to ask. I know it's something that in the past Bengal teams have struggled with when they're being picked to win and everybody expects them to win. That was an opportunity a lot of times where the ball got dropped. But you have some encouraging signs this year. And we mentioned the Detroit game was another game that everybody was looking at and saying, all right, what are the Bengals going to do against a team that they're clearly better than and need to go in there and polish off? And although they started a little slow in that game, it was never really in doubt. They took control, did what they were supposed to do, and got back home to get going again. So I think with this current group that we keep mentioning and cautiously, being optimistic with and saying that yeah they have a different look to them. That's where that comes into play. That's where having a leader like Joe Burrow, who's not going to take his foot off the gas and continually wants to grind every week and show that not only is his team the best, but everybody that told me that I wasn't good coming up. Just a little background on Joe. I'm sure everybody's heard the story now, but he spent 3 or 4 years at the.
No, you ain't about to start claiming Joe.
No, no,
Don't
no,
start
no. I'm not
claiming
claiming.
Joe.
I'm not claiming Joe.
Okay, I'm about to say.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. Joe claims the, so I don't have to claim it for him.
He ain't
So,
claiming.
he does. You heard it in his Heisman speech, but anyway, uh, what I'm stating is that even when he was there, Urban Meyer didn't believe in Joe Burrow enough to hand over the starting reins to him. Dwayne Haskins got the nod. Joe Burrow decides, hey, after he graduates, I got 2 more years of eligibility. Let me go somewhere else. His uncles played for Nebraska, another one of college football's blue blood programs. Initially tried to transfer to Nebraska. Scott Frost tells him, I don't think you're better than what I already got here. So
Adrian
Joe,
Martinez, are you kidding me?
yeah, I think he would want that one back. Uh, so he goes down to LSU, and Coach O, finally, gives him the reins, and Joe Burrow turns into what you see here. So what I'm saying is that always got to prove myself. To this day, if you ask Tom Brady who the 6 quarterbacks were that were selected in front of him in the 2000 NFL draft, he'll name them without hesitation. It's guys like that have that competitive mindset. They carry that with them throughout the rest of their career. They keep that chip on their shoulder. We have that now in Joe Burrow, and everybody believes. So I think that's where you see the difference in how they'll handle this. We'll know a lot again come Sunday. um, Nothing's ever given in this league, and you know how hard it is to win, man. Even when games get out of hand, there's always about 3 or 4 plays that you can go back to that you can say started the onslaught or whatever. So you would expect the Bengals to win this game. They expect to win it. But I think we got a different group that's going to be able to handle success and go up there and take care of business. It's not like Joe Flacco is going to start off, 2 or 3 days in the building. If he does, they're really in trouble. So I'm looking for another big game for the Bengals up in New York City, or excuse me, East Rutherford, New Jersey, at that stadium up there, and take care of business and come back. And then we have the Browns after that, I believe.
Yes, the Browns,
Yep.
November 7th, was my mom's
And I can hear
birthday.
Browns fans already making excuses about injuries and so
Oh, we
forth.
heard like
Yeah,
last year we went beat up down to our fifth corner out there playing LaShawn Sims. Like like people well, so when people talk about injuries, I say save your breath. Save
yeah.
your breath, bruh. Because I don't want to hear nothing. We was out there with Tony McRae, LaShawn Sims, Darius Phillips was our number one. Like, that's bad matchups,
And
you know
we
what I'm
never
saying?
get a break. You hear a lot of the national media and pundits when there's other teams. They do it for Pittsburgh too. They'll say,
Oh yeah.
"Oh well, T.J. Watt wasn't playing, and this and that, and da 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 da." The Bengals, going back to 2018 when we started 4-1 Marvin's last year before that imploded due to injuries, never get credit when injuries factor in. Now look, we know it's the next man up. You got to do what you got to do. But as Tom Jackson once said, a former ESPN analyst and Broncos linebacker who lives here locally in Cincinnati,
Yeah,
that guy is starting for a reason.
for a reason.
Even in the
I
pros, there
listen,
are different levels, as Tyler Boyd would
man.
say.
Look, when I say about injuries, I say next man up. I say that's coach speak. I say next man up. I say like you said, it's a reason why that person is starting, and it's a reason why that person was behind him. In most cases, is there is some kind of drop off. So yeah, next man up only goes so far. You know,
Cleveland
and
had it coming anyway, though, because a lot of their fans have been really belligerent over the past year. I mean, you would think that they were the New England
oh
Patriots.
man, people think Bengals fans going crazy right now. Cleveland fans did not know how to act. They had
Oh
one
man,
year of success. Well, at least we had five in a row
right.
and like seven over 10 years. They had one year of success and just went crazy. We going Super Bowl next year, and what shocked me is the national analysts believed it. They Browns going to the Super. I'm like, are y'all kidding me? Like, stop. Like, just stop. Like, not with Baker Mayfield. They're not going to no Super Bowl. But anyway, focus on
So give back
get
to the
back
Jets.
center in here,
Getting
Bengals.
back to the Jets. Do the Jets, in your opinion, brother Cam, do the Jets present any challenges, any worries to you on Sunday?
Outside the fact that you just got to line up and play, they play. They don't. No, no. Just a simple no. They don't offer, pose any threat. Like I said, unless we come out there and we're not focused, we're not ready to go. We come out flat. Uh, Penalties and things like that. By which, by the way, we only had one penalty, and that came on the last drive in the fourth quarter. So really, we didn't have any penalties in that football game. So long as we don't come out with penalties set, putting us behind the chains, being silly on offense, I expect us to get out to a quick start, 10-0 start, 14-0 start, and don't give these teams hope. Because one
Yeah,
in the NFL, you give a team hope, they in the game in the middle of the third quarter, then it could go either way. Then it's 50-50 and luck up, a field goal here, and you lose the game. So come out quick. Not necessarily like you did the Lions because it took the second half, but make sure have your 10, 15 plays ready. Come out first drive, get something on the board, and let that defense work. But no, they don't pose a threat to me at all. I really feel confident in this Bengals team that they're focused. Uh, this team has been sick of losing, been kind of sick of the injuries that's piled up on them. They're healthy, and I think you're gonna see a team ready to jump on a lesser opponent and get their sixth win of the season.
I agree. And if you start 6-2 with an opportunity to come home and play the Browns after that and potentially be 7-2 at your bye week, far surpasses the expectation that many Bengals fans had, including us, going into the season. And then you're talking about again the fact that they haven't had any serious injuries to date, knock on wood. The Bengals are in position to be talking about getting that first round bye, closing
Hmm.
out the rest of their season. There's still some tough games out there, but they do have to start thinking postseason if you go into the bye week 7-2.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking at some of these games where, you look at the way our team built, and you're looking at some of the games ahead. Like first, you thought maybe Cleveland. You're like, oh, you thought maybe, you might drop two to them. You now you're looking like, okay, at worst maybe split. You're at worst you're gonna split with Pitt or Baltimore. You got a chance. I'm looking at sweeping Pittsburgh. I want to sweep Pittsburgh. I know the second time TJ Watt be out there, but yeah, there's no reason why you don't. Like I said, take a week at a time. But you gotta start looking like, okay, we're 5-2. Let's take care of business, and we can be playing some meaningful ball in January.
And
That's
the
what it's about.
Bengals very easily could be 7-0 right now.
Easy.
Anybody who's being realistic and unbiased about it would pretty much agree. I know Keyshawn said at the beginning of the year when you look at the schedule, like you were saying, there were some games that we thought might be rough that have turned into very winnable games and vice versa, because you never know how the season turns out. We got a game with Kansas City later this season that we really thought was going to be tough. It may still very well be because they
It'll
have
be tough. It's Mahomes.
great
It's
football
you.
players, but it's not nearly as daunting as it once was.
Nope. Yeah, nope. And then you look. I seen San Francisco week 17. I'm like, we should smack them. Like, you know what I mean? Not necessarily smack them, but that should be a win. We'll be favored in that football game. Uh, and what's crazy is they asked this on the radio today. Would you thought October 25th, we'll be sitting here 5-2, and if we played the Chiefs tomorrow, we'll be a favorite?
No.
That's crazy. I mean that is insane. And for the Bengals, really, we arrived. We a year early in our rebuild. That's what people thought maybe year three. You know what I mean? Year three of Joe Burrow. That's where we'll start seeing this. What we're getting now. We showing up a year early. which I love to see because like you like to bring up your I felt like my Bearcats when they arrived, they came a year early, and that speeds up your progression, and it gives you more chance. Your window is more wider because obviously we still have Joe on a rookie contract, so we start winning now. That gives us a little bit more room, a little in that window to try to make a really strong push at not only winning divisions but winning the championship.
And you have to take advantage of these opportunities too, because that old saying, moments are fleeting, especially in the NFL, because you never know when the situation is going to come back around. I remember a few years ago when Dak and Zeke Elliott first got to the Cowboys, and Tony Romo was hurt, and there was some discussion, at least initially, whether they were going to bring Romo back as a starter. And even his best friend, All Pro tight end Jason Witten, said, "Hey man, when you got something rolling, you got to keep it going."
Yep.
Because you never know. Dan Marino, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, made it to the Super Bowl, his rookie year. Like he said, "Oh man, this is gonna be easy," and never made it back again. So you never know in this league what's going to happen. But that's why I think having a guy like Joe, who's not going to, like I said, take his foot off the gas and will constantly be looking to get better. All he talked about after the game yesterday was the throws that he didn't, make.
Yep. Yep.
I
And the
heard Tom
fixing.
Brady say the same thing, and they blew the Bears out 35-3. But you realize when you hear that, that's what makes those guys different.
Yep. 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 And it's just a certain kind of confidence that Joe Burrow has in himself that oozes throughout the team. And it's huge. And I think we feel it in the fan base as well. We're feeling in the fan base like, hey, we can do this thing. Joe gives us a chance. And like honestly, for the first time, I really feel like if the Bengals were hypothetically they make the playoffs, right? Like I will have for the first time in a long time, I will feel like they can win that football game. Like when we made it to the playoffs in years before, like I wanted us to win. It's the difference between wanting to win and feeling like you can win. I just feel like if this time around if we made it, I know that we can win this football game because of who we got at quarterback, man. And it's a good feeling to have. And
It's a great feeling because when people would always ask me, back in the day, Al, man, can the Bengals win a Super Bowl? And more importantly, the question was, can we win with Andy Dalton? And I
that
used to, and I
that
used
that was
to,
the main question. The
and,
team was
and I
stacked.
used
The team was built.
and and I used to answer it. I said yes, but he's not going to be the reason why you win. Which, if that's the case, that puts a lot of pressure on the rest of the football team, too, when the quarterback or the main guy is somebody that you maybe deem has the ability to do it, but is not a difference maker at all times. And again, I'm an Andy guy, so I don't mean that, as a
Right.
diss, but certainly with Joe Burrow, you have that confidence, and going into the game that, man, he's going to be a difference maker. He's going to be the reason why you sink or swim. And more often than not, as I mentioned before, the moment's never too big for him. So yeah, there's a certain level of confidence should they make it to the playoffs this year, especially if they get a first round bye. And I don't want to put the cart before the
I mean
horse,
that mean they're the number one seed then.
but I would hope that would be the case, because we seem to have some trouble with wild card weekend. But again, this different team, so you don't want to put any of that old Aju out there, but that still weighs off. We'll start with the Jets and them taking
Yeah.
care of business against a team that we know that they're better than on paper and on the field. So I went first last time. I need a score from Coach Cam. Jets, Bengals, MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. What's the score gonna be?
Look, players are human. You know what I mean? I'm not, I do expect a big victory. I don't expect, maybe not as flawless, maybe not as crisp, but I expect a nice win. I expect a 27-3 victory against the Jets. There's no reason for them to be able to score points. I'm looking at the team for the Jets, and I'm kind of disappointed in Robert Saleh. I thought he would. He had a lot of energy with the 49ers. He was a big play. Yeah, rah guy. I'm not seeing that him as a head coach. It's like his personality completely changed.
In
Uh,
fairness to him, would change a lot of people that inherit that situation with the New York Jets. Because
man,
unfortunately, not only are they a bad football team,
bad org.
I honestly think they're a bad organization at
Yep,
this
they
point.
are.
And that stuff trickles down to on the field. I mean, we know when there were times where we weren't functioning the best from the front office on down. You see it. So I think that's what he's inheriting there. They got a lot of problems. You see, they just traded for a Joe. This is not the Baltimore Ravens, Joe Flacco. I'm gonna go on a run and get a contract maybe I don't deserve uh, after winning the Super Bowl. Joe
Right.
Flacco. This is Joe Flacco. I couldn't even beat out Jalen Hurts in the preseason in Philadelphia. So
That's
um,
bad.
I like that score. I think I'm going to go um, Bengals 28, Jets 10.
28-10.
Yeah.
Hey, 28-10. I'll take that victory. I'll take any victory in NFL. I don't want it to be too sloppy. I still want us to stay crisp. Because you got Cleveland that following week. You got to bye. And then you got the Raiders. I'll be out in Vegas for that game. Um, you know, so we'll see how that goes there. But I'm looking at the schedule, man, and it's hard not to look ahead and think where you can be by December. You look at, like the Jets this week. You don't want to count the chickens before they hatch. It's a football game to be played, and and you have to play the game. But you look at that and you think, okay, there's a possibility to be 6-2 there. You look at Cleveland and their injury situation. You looking like, okay, you got a chance there to be 7-2. You got a bye week. You heal up. You come back out of the Raiders. Now that's always hard to go out West Coast. To play a game. But I'm looking there and I'm looking like, okay, they're good. They're a good football team. We're better. Like if I'm looking at the two teams, and I had to pick a team to coach or whatever, or I'm picking the Bengals over the Raiders. So I'm like, and then you look, you got the Steelers again, who are Big Ben. I feel like he's done. So I'm looking at these games, and it's like it's hard not to look ahead and say, you know, can you be 8-3? Can you be a 9-2? Looking ahead. So it's very exciting. It's exciting time in Ohio football. And I'm gonna include your boys. I'm gonna include thee. It's very exciting time. We got the Bengals first place in the AFC. You got the Bearcats number 2 in the nation. You got Ohio State just right outside of that playoff spot, looking to climb in. So it's an exciting time in Ohio, for football right now. And let's cherish it. Let's cherish it. Let's be happy. It's okay to be happy. Don't let these haters try to steal your joy and say it's not okay to cheer.
Oh,
It
this
is
is
okay
this
to
is
cheer.
so beautiful, man. You get Cam being articulate in his praise and spreading it around to all the Ohio outlets that we have here. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is not how he is in private or when he's on Facebook. He's locked in with his particular teams, and the hell
Right.
with everybody else. But,
You're
but
right.
I'll take it. Cause that's what I'm trying to preach all the time, that it don't have to be animosity. Let's look at the big picture and everything will work out the way it's supposed to. So you got to take this when you get this from Coach Cam, because it's not
Yes.
often.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Look, my Bengals with it, my Bearcats with it. Hey, I'm happy. Everybody else, can get love long as they up there. I'm good. I'm good. But we appreciate everybody for tuning in. And like I said, keep tuning in, man. Like I said, we're getting things added and everything like that, and to make this show better for you guys, the viewers, listeners, and everything like that. But just keep tapping in with us every Monday, 7:30. Life in the Jungle, season 1, episode 10. That one day, a day in Baltimore. All right, that's it. We out.